So here's a question I've got for you. Do you think that AI makes work easier, or do you think sometimes that it makes work more distracting? Because let's be real, between notifications, auto suggestions, just like the way that our brains are working right now with all of this inundation of information, is it actually supporting us, or is our attention constantly under attack? I think that the currency right now for us, for leaders, for everything is actually focus. And so in this podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into actually, is AI making focus harder right now? So let's dive in, y'all. Because when we think about it, distraction is real. It's a major issue. I notice it. Like if you are somebody who has like more than, I'm looking at the tabs right now on my screen, I'm not even going to tell you how many. I'm going to count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I think I've got 15 tabs on my screen, which is pretty good, which is not good. We should have what? If we're really focused, 2 tabs, maybe 1 tab, because that's the one thing that we should be focused on. So if you're a person that has like 47 tabs, your desktop is crazy, then this is definitely for you. And I think that most of us are operating in this way. And if we peel back actually why we're operating in this way, is that the amount of information right now that we are getting, that we are consuming in a year, I saw this on a TED Talk a few years ago, is like more than somebody would have ever consumed in their lifetime in the 1800s. Just think about that for a moment. And so the way that we absorb information right now is, I believe, that our brain's just not even capable of it. And so what we're seeing right now is that we're seeing a lot of people with attention problems and these focus problems. And being on our phones doesn't make it much better. And watching short form content doesn't make it any better either. Looking and swiping and all of these actions and being quickly on our phone, like it's not good for our attention, right? So we already have to recognize that the way that the system currently is working for us is that it's actually not working for us at all, and it's not helping our attention. So it's important for us to recognize that and to build in parameters, guardrails in our lives, in how we actually look at our phones and in the way that we consume information, in the way that we make sure that we are disconnecting at a specific time from technology. That actually will help us focus more. Because if we look at this, there's some really wild stats that I found. So on average, employees may lose up to 60 hours a month to distractions, and it can take over 23 minutes to regain focus after a single interruption. That's wild. So that's like a quarter of an hour. If you're an entrepreneur, for even working for yourself, like just apply this to yourself. So you work a certain amount of time, about 25% of every hour that you work, if you got distracted, is going to be spent on you trying to regain your focus from one single interruption. So let's say that you're recording a video and you get a notification on your computer. Well, you're going to be distracted. It's going to take you some time to kind of get recovered from that. So when we think about it, that 60 hours a month could just be lost because of being distracted, then it's not really, to me, even right now, about AI. It's about what can you do to become more focused in general and less distracted. But my thought about the whole idea about AI distraction really came up from me because what I started to realize with myself is, so I'm quite aware of my habits and my patterns. And I'm not on my phone that often. I'm not on social media unless it's really to try to be there for business. And I don't have any notifications on my phone. And I also notice, and we all know this from, well, hopefully we all know this, but now you do know this as well, is that we have a dopamine problem right now and dopamine addiction to our phones. And there are neural pathways in our brain right now that when we reach for our phone, we are going to go through a series of habits that are going to help us release dopamine to actually feel better. So one of the things that I noticed on my phone, because I don't really go on social media, was that I would even go check my email. I would go, which is a horrible habit, I would go check my WhatsApp. Being in Europe, most people converse via WhatsApp, and that's where I'd be notified. So it wasn't like going to social media, it was like going to these other traps that are a lot worse because when we go to those, even though it's releasing dopamine, what's happening? We're getting flooded with so much information. And actually, getting flooded with so much information isn't so good because that actually increases our stress, which increases our cortisol, which when you have increased cortisol, it's actually harder to sleep, it's harder to lose weight, right? So it's just like this really weird, like, loop that we need to get out of. And so I digress because what was interesting is then I noticed that I would get so much information so fast from my conversations with chat on strategy, on content creation, on all of these things that I'm using chat for. And I noticed that I started to feel quite stressed out. And then I also noticed that my attention span and my patience for being able to want to read something longer started to change. And so I haven't actually been able to find stats here. I would love to actually interview somebody that can talk a little bit more about this, that's like a scientist. But this is where I was like, wow, this is actually impacting me, where I think my focus, I do really focus on my focus, not perfectly focused on it. But I think that when we use AI as a tool to support us and we put in these boundaries for that support, it actually saves us a ton of time. So it's being able to now be able to turn out the digital noise and be able to shut off what we need to shut off and use it effectively. So I'm going to walk you through just a few of the things that I do. But here are some stats that I did find that I just thought were really worth sharing as we start thinking about impact of AI on our distraction and our focus. Some positive things is that 85% of workers using AI claimed it helped them focus on their most important work. So that to me is really beneficial because it is showing that it is a tool to help us get more focus. 90% say that AI is helping them save time on work tasks. This is amazing. AI users often report higher productivity. So this is really great with like programmers or people that are using AI to actually like be more productive in their actual tasks, right? For data analysis. So if you've actually figured out how to put it in to your workflow, this is great. 60% of UK data workers reported experiencing stress reduction due to AI. Now, this is funny because a few years ago, I was at a tech conference and this was the opposite, that a lot of AI workers were actually having so much more stress. So, again, it's always about the sources. AI tools can reduce cognitive load by filtering unnecessary information and automating repetitive tasks. So, freeing up psychological resources for deeper work. I think this is massive because one of the things that there was that MIT study that happened in the spring of 2025 that showed it was like looking at students and it showed students using AI to write. And when they would use AI to write versus not writing and then recall the information, the recall of the short-term memory was much worse. And actually, when they looked at the brain scans, different activity in the brain was not as robust or lively, let's say, fully using AI or chat to write. So to me, that was actually that's worrisome, right? Like if our brain's not flowing and lighting up in the way that it was, well, why is that not happening, right? So that's interesting. But then hearing this on the flip side, okay, so you actually you're maybe outsourcing this task. I always like to think about AI as my most valuable employee. I'm going to just review it. So like I would review my employee's work, like I would review somebody else's work. So interesting kind of focus there. But then some of the negative stats were a majority of employees already find general digital tools like email, messaging apps, video conferencing distracting and stressful. So when there's an injection of AI tools, this can add even more to digital noise. I think that as leaders of our businesses, it's important to support less information for our employees, right? So like avoiding email when you can, avoiding like being just very strategic at communication is essential. Another stat was that employees using AI report a 16% increase in meetings after 8 p.m. and about 20% check emails on the weekends. So this to me is just not having great boundaries in place as the business owner and poor expectation of employees, right? So that's going to obviously lead to burnout and also the employees not being able to actually just set those boundaries and not do that. But I have to tell you, that takes time to actually create those boundaries. I learned them myself actually as an entrepreneur, not as an employee. So that's just, more kind of self-leadership and self-development there. But that to me is pretty big. And then another term that kind of came up while I was doing this research was leavism. So this is the inability to switch off. And to me, this is massive. So if you're working from home and you're working from home, you've got a home office, what happened during everyone kind of shifting from like at the office to work from home is that you really don't have this time after like you used to have this time to get to the office, right? So you'd leave your house, you'd have your routine to get to the office, whatever that was. So maybe you were in LA, you'd have to drive your car. Maybe you in New York, you took the subway. Maybe you were in Europe, you walked, right? Whatever that might have been. But you had this time, you had this space to actually get to where you wanted to go in a beautiful way. Well, y'all, I work from home. I don't have this opportunity. Like I have to kind of create that opportunity. So I have a very clear, like, I'm not working anymore. And this is like my work life balance. But it's important for us to create that because this idea of leavism is not good for your soul. It's not good for your psyche. It's not good for your mind. It's not good for your stress. So I'm going to have another whole podcast episode of this because it's wild. And I want to just really unpack this a little bit deeper. But so stats show that using AI actually increases this for employees. And another negative one, around 60% of workers using AI expect burnout. And then just one more on the stats, and then we'll get into some strategies. 48% of employees worry about AI tracking their activities, and 56% have security concerns when using AI. So, yes, this isn't really going to impact so much your focus and your productivity, but I think it's an interesting statistic to show about kind of where we are going and what we're doing. So, I want to talk now about the turnaround. So, actually, how do you have AI boundaries, and actually, how do you just have better time management and better focus strategies? Because that's what we have to do. We have to first recognize that as business owners, as leaders, like it's our job to make sure we know where we're going to go every week. So I'm not able to do this one yet, but having your whole month planned is really where we're aiming. So having your whole week planned on that Sunday, you know exactly your meetings, you know exactly what you're going to be working on. So being able to know exactly where you're going to go for the whole week is where you want to be able to plan. And so that you know every day where you want to go. So outlining the structure of how you're going to be operating is massive. So knowing where you're going, being able to time block and being able to batch tasks are essential skills that have nothing to do with AI, but everything to do with focus. How are you doing that right now in your business? And how are your people doing that as well? This is fundamental. When you can create great performance and structure is allowing you to create that great performance, that is going to get you momentum and that is going to allow you to focus even more because you have that performance time. You have specific focus time. You know when you're going to be using AI. You know when you're going to be in that deep work thinking, which is maybe a specific set of skills and mindset versus maybe you're doing your analytics where maybe you're going to be leveraging AI, right? So this is very important is to have an outline of your week and have an outline of your day. Number two is creating a focus friendly environment. Right now, I'm in my shared office with my husband. He's not listening to anything I have to say because he's got his headphones on. He's in his focus mode. If I'm in my focus mode, I need to maybe go to a place where there's a lot of energy. I put my headphones on, I listen to some, neural beats music, and I'm focused. Versus I am co-working with a friend. We are doing this to hold each other accountable. I know she's going to be interacting with me. So there's going to be a different type of flow and work that I'm going to be doing. So when you know that you're going to be in these focus moments of your time, you want to make sure you create that environment that's friendly. So you've got that digital environment that you're creating, right? So making sure that you don't have the notifications coming on your phone at all. You've got, distraction-free environment that the work, the light, wherever it is optimal for you to feel really good and that you physiologically have done the things that you need to do to feel really good as well. So this is like you making sure that you've had your morning tea, that you've done your motivational, whatever that is for you. Maybe you do stretching, but that you are in a physiological good space in your moment so that you are optimal when it comes to your focus. Next, it's to build your AI power toolkit. Okay, so the whole idea is like, how does AI make you less focused or more focused, well, let's just build our toolkit. Why are you using AI? What are the tools that you're using AI for? And how do you make sure that you are using them for the tasks that you have at hand? So you know that you're going to use a few different AI tools for your normal workflow or your employees' workflow. Maybe you give yourself an hour a week, 2 hours a week to explore AI. That is a blocked time for you to be creative with AI, to learn AI, to play around with Google Studio, to play around with all of these things. That's a specific time that you can have to do whatever you want so you can be focused in that aspect. So it's understanding that toolbox of actually tools that you're currently using and tools that you want to use. And when you have the idea about tools that you want to use, block some time on your calendar. The next and the most important thing is that you want AI to be your most valuable employee. Now, if you're leading a team of 100, I don't know if you're going to be able to call it your most valuable employee, but maybe you make it the most valuable employee of all your employees, right? But the idea is that this is going to support you in reaching your goals. This is going to support you in reaching your business goals, and it's going to support your team in helping them reach their goals to help you reach your business goals, right? So the idea is, how do you make it your most valuable employee? You make it do the tasks that you don't want to do and that you can leverage so you can gain more efficiency. But at that same time, creativity, that's on you. You can use it for brainstorming, but remember, it is you as the ultimate person that is going to take that inspiration that you've got and make that final decision. Decision making is on you, judgment is on you. And being able to leverage, so leveraging the tools of AI, but leaning in more powerfully to yourself as the leader, getting clear and confident in the decisions that you want to make, and really holding and owning your own agency in this entire process is everything. So these are the ways that you can make sure that you manage focus so much more in your business, because I do believe that if you don't put the guardrails on AI, and if you don't put the guardrails on what's happening right now and how we work and how we do things, and just this digital overload that we are getting right now as humans in this world, then that's where your focus is going to drain. But when you can put AI, the use of AI, the tools for AI, where you want to go with AI in a box, then everything is going to be so much easier, because then you take that box out when you want. And you are going to be in control of your business and your focus and of AI. So thank you all so much for tuning into this episode. I will check you out in another episode. And if you like this, please give it a 5-star review, leave me a comment, and tell me what you like the most about it. I am listening and wanting comments from you, so I can't wait to get more of them. I'll talk to you next time. Ciao.